Are you in the business of turning today's business studies students into tomorrow's business moguls? Well, on today's Resource Review ICT Special, we're in the business of evaluating 3 ICT teaching aids that might help. They are a business simulation game, a how to run a small business software package, and online business studies teaching resources. Recommending today's resources, we have Chris Horton, an independent consultant in work and enterprise-related learning.
Hi.
On the panel is Jackie King, Head of Business Studies at Haverstock School in North London, and Alan Mills from the Specialist Schools and Academies Trust. And it's the business of our regular ICT investigator, Matthew Tosh, to put the resources through their paces in the test lab. So, Chris, your first resource is called Production and Marketing, Business Studies. Tell us about it.
What it does is it covers 18 interactive thinking tasks, which each take 10 minutes. And the idea is that the student goes into a virtual environment and finds out the answers to various questions, various aspects of the production cycle, various aspects of the marketing cycle. And what I particularly liked about it is that it sets the student in a games environment that many of them are used to. As you can see, there's a little central figure there. You control that figure as you move through the environment. And what the learner has to do is go through and amass a vocabulary and quiz. There are little virtual figures of a production manager in there and a sales manager, and they have to ask questions, and then armed with that vocabulary, show their understanding through going to a notice board within that environment.
OK, well, thanks very much. A great introduction there from Chris. Now let's go over to Matthew in the test lab to find out more.
Production and Marketing is an interactive game where you move around in a virtual 3D environment, completing a variety of tasks. You can see on the screen here the sections of my CD-ROM. And within each section, there are a variety of tasks. Now, the tasks vary from multiple choice questions to running around an environment and passing bits of information between characters. I've only got time to show you one of them today, so I thought we'd have a look at this one here. Now, when the task loads up, you can see a couple of screens telling you about what you've got to do in that task. There is a speech facility on most of the screens, although to be honest, you probably only want to play it once.
In this task, you will learn how businesses obtain money for capital expenditure.
That's enough of that. Well, here's my character, and to move him around, you just use the left and right buttons, forward and backward arrows. It's very easy to navigate through. And you can see some of the special features in the game already, including this spinning dollar sign. And wherever you see one of these, it indicates there's a bit of information which you can pick up and then give to another character in the game. Now, once I've got my information, I can run around and find somebody to give it to. It's quite jolly the way he runs around. And here's a person here. Looks a little less jolly, this person. Oh, he's a bank manager, that would explain it. He wants some information. Let's try and give some to him. Now, I've got some information here. Let's click on that, see if he will accept it. He won't, unfortunately, so I didn't get that one right. But the idea is you do get the right information to the right person as you go through the game. Now, the speed of the game is limited by the speed that the characters move. And given the fact that some of the games may take up to 10 minutes to play, you probably only want to focus on 1 or 2 during a particular lesson. To add variety to the game, you can change your character just by clicking on the arrows here. You can also buy a scooter or skateboard to move around on. And you can do this with money that you've accumulated during the games. Unfortunately, you can't change the computer voice, so I'd keep it switched off. And on that note, back to Hermione.
Chris, an interesting resource, but is it just an expensive game?
I don't think so. I certainly think it's a game environment that works quite well for me. And it gives me opportunities for revision where I haven't demonstrated that I've clearly understood it. But it also feeds that back centrally to the teacher.
All right. Well, let's see. Jackie, you've actually used this package with your students. Did you find it useful?
I used it with some Year 11 students who are studying GCSE Business. And exactly as you say, when they first saw it, they really thought this is going to be exciting. But I'm afraid that the initial sort of excitement wore away quite quickly, because what they're actually doing in the collecting of information and filling in the gaps is a worksheet, which is one of them pointed out, but this is a worksheet on a wall. And because they're so used to gaming, they very quickly started to get off task and to see if they could make the little boy jump up and down into different directions and find secret rooms.
I think it depends upon how you're going to explain the use of it to the student. I mean, I think you obviously are going to get the students who are going to see if they can make the little boy jump out of the window in the factory. But if the students understand this is another way of grasping the concepts involved in the business studies that they're doing, I think there's a high chance you get a lot of them on track.
OK, well, Alan, what were your thoughts?
I think the problem with all these sort of games exercises, they take the idea of game strategy, which is absolutely fundamental, and then invent a boring game. I mean, game strategy is crucial. If teachers know what they're doing, they want something that leads on to the next thing, they want to be able to give a result at the end of the particular section you're on, and they want something which is active and interactive. And that's what a good game is. All good games do those things.
I still think this is enough to engage those students that maybe have switched off the simple paper worksheet that they're trying to do. It gives you an alternative, a way of diversifying your teaching.
Thank you very much. Now let's move on to Chris's second choice of resource. It's called Alarmco. Tell us about this one, Chris.
Alarmco is a business simulation activity. And I chose this because this one only requires 1 or 2 computers in a classroom to run successfully. And it's really based around a core piece of software that asks students to break into teams of 3. And it gives them each an opportunity to run an alarm manufacturing company. And I think the flexibility of the game comes in that it offers 3 levels of play. So you go through a first level where the variables don't change, and then the teacher can change some of the options, which then invites discussion about the relationship, if you like, between fixed costs and variable costs, for example, or the relationship between your advertising spend and the success that you have with your sale.
All right, thank you very much. Now let's go over to Matthew in the test lab to see if Alarmco caused him any alarm.
With Alarmco, you are completing a weekly budget sheet for an alarm selling company. You have complete control over employees' wages and the entire budget. Now, the programme doesn't calculate any of the values for you. You have to do this yourself using the information provided on the business information sheet. Now, I'm running it in its easy mode here just to show you, and we start with £300. I'm not going to take out any loan. I haven't got any alarms in stock either because I'm just starting out, but I'm going to order 30 new alarm kits. And here I've worked it out as £267. Now, the advertising, this is important because the number of alarm units I sell is related directly to the amount of money I put into advertising. In the simple mode, the more money I put in, the more alarms I sell. But in more advanced levels, it's just like in real life, it's a non-linear relationship. So the more money I put in, the less overall effect it has. Well, I'm going to put in £10 to see what that gives me. I've sold a grand total of 4 alarms, so that's £80. And I have some fixed outgoings like the overheads for my company, so we'll just type that in, and my wages. Now, my total income is £80, and the moment of truth now. I'm going to put in 200 just to show you what happens if you make an accounting mistake. Just like in real life, you need to call the accountants in, and that costs you money. And I'm bankrupt. The idea is that people do make a profit and they carry that profit forward to the next week. They can go away, have a little chat about their marketing strategy and then come back to the programme. If you go to a new game, you have complete control over all of the game settings, so things like the loan rate, overheads, employee costs, things like that. This gives pupils a chance to interact with the model. So not only are they learning about marketing and business planning, they're also learning about computer modelling. Well, it seems quite straightforward, but given my track record on here, I think I'll stick with a day job.
Well, Chris, I hope you don't mind me saying, but I thought this resource looked a little bit old-fashioned. It did look a bit simple, and it's not new, is it?
What I like about Alarmco in particular, it's an oldie but a goodie.
Right.
It's simple and it allows the teacher to remain in control of the technology.
Right, OK. Well, let's go to one of those teachers, Jackie, who has used it. What did you think?
There's nothing wrong with the low tech, and you're absolutely right, because the students didn't get wrapped up in the technology. They just were using it as a tool. They understand it's a tool. Yeah, it's a good way of showing how you've got to pay attention to your money. The frustrating sort of being penalised for your errors by having to pay the accountant's fee is really frustrating.
Frustrating, but isn't it a good lesson?
It's a very good lesson, and it's very difficult to explain to the young people, and invariably one of them will go, well, then I want to be the accountant, and that's not a bad thing either.
That could be the best outcome.
It could be, but again, what they have to do once they finish that, going back to the old tech, they have to copy it off the screen onto a piece of paper, take it away, make their decisions and come back and play round 2. Now, if they make errors in copying, then there's no going back. I can't go back and help them find out what they had on the last screen.
Well, Alan, what would you say about this one?
I can see it's of great value because ICT is about collaboration. It's not about doing it on your own, and that's the worst thing about ICT. Stick a child in front of a computer and say, get on with it. Awful. And this does actually develop the ideas of collaborating. I can understand that, but there are things about it which make you wonder, you know, the last 10 years of ICT almost don't seem to have occurred to the people who wrote this. There's not much on there you wouldn't be able to do in a spreadsheet. They've already been set up by the teacher. So, you know, it has value, but I'm not sure the resource itself is enough value to purchase.
Well, you say you could do it with a spreadsheet. I'm not sure you'd have to spend a lot of time with a spreadsheet to replicate some of the options, the flexibility with the options that make the model more complex. And I also think that you do have to obviously invest a lot up front in explaining to the students about accuracy of entry into the data.
Well, thank you all very much. Now let's move on to Chris's third choice of resource. Chris, this is a free website called Bzed. Tell us about it.
It's been around for quite a while, been around for about 10 years, and it's been developed by the University of Bristol with a kind of pedagogic slant, because what they're doing is they know that a good lesson has to have clear learning outcomes, and they're providing those outcomes in a lesson design, even a PowerPoint presentation to go with it, some online questionnaires that the students can fill in. So they're really taking the approach, how can we design a sort of good business studies lesson that someone can come and just grab it and use it. For example, I can go to business and economics education here if I'm looking for a level 2 thing, nature of markets. This automatically I'm sort of pointed to a set of resources, what do you already know, and there we have an interesting mind map. They're even moving into podcasting now, so they're actually developing programs that students can download onto their iPods.
Fantastic, sounds good. Jackie, are you a fan of Bzed?
Yes, we've used Bzed for very many years. It's a good resource for teachers because we have used them in the past for differentiation for those that need some extension. They particularly like the mind maps, PowerPoints. And also now what we can do is use it for those at A-level that need a little more of a push start. So they can come down now, look at the level 2 resources. But yes, it's great for teachers, use it all the time.
Alan, a quick comment from you about Bzed.
I think it's superb. I mean, it's also universal. I know of schools in Africa that use it quite frequently because many of the issues are the same everywhere, and it's very easy adaptable. You can download the PowerPoint and do things with it, which is the joy of any good website, especially if it's free.
Well, that's all we've got time for, but just to recap, the 3 resources that we looked at were Production and Marketing Business Studies from Caspian Learning, Alarmco from SPA, and Bzed from the University of Bristol. For more information about all of the resources we discussed, go to our website. It's teachers.tv/resource review, or email us resourcereview@teachers.tv. A big thank you to our panel, to Chris, to Jackie and to Alan. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time on Resource Review. Bye-bye.